Welcome back to Heartbeats Vanity, guys. It is Taylor here. Thank you for clicking on this video. Today we have another ChrisHansen interview highlights, and the guest today is Stevie Wolfe. The original video will be linked in the description box below. Any channel creators I mentioned will have their channels linked for you guys in the description box below as well. Thank you if you're new to the channel, and if you'd like to stick around, go ahead and click that subscribe button. And while you're at it, go ahead and give this video a like. It really does help me out if you so choose to. So enough of my rambling. Let's begin with the first snippet that we're going to provide commentary with right after.
Reading into some of the things that he's done now, as opposed to how it was when I started, which was just this goofball on YouTube that was making all these insane statements and getting in all these insane dramas. Now this is a level of depravity and criminality that makes me sick to my stomach.
Multiple open criminal investigations confirmed on the record by the Pierce County, Washington Sheriff's Department.
Exactly. And he's been saying the entire time that the police weren't involved, that they sided with him, whatever that means. Police are objective in their investigations. They go by the evidence they're provided. They don't take sides with people in that sense that he's.
So this is somebody who's been covering Onision's actions for quite some time, nearly a decade. I believe he refers to it as a decade. But the simple fact is he has seen through the mask, I guess you can see, for a lot longer than a lot of creators have. You know, a decade ago, his content has obviously changed a lot since then, being Onision's content. And it has now dived into what we've been discussing over this period of time. A lot of illegal activity, using photos of underage individuals, using his platform for malicious intent and intent to gain a sort of relationship where a lot of abuse has taken place, as we have also gone over that. Harassing people who he has, in Onision's words, cut out of his life in various videos and skits and multitudes of other things that we have just gone over through this whole couple of month period with the ChrisHansen interviews. What I actually really admired about Stevie the most was, one, how articulate he is and how well worded he is. And there were some vocabulary words in there. I was like, dang, like you got me looking stuff up. That I thought was very, very interesting, because this isn't just somebody who was observing this over a short amount of time. This is somebody who has spent a very, very long time clearly investing into the whys, the hows, the whens, and so on. So for me to take his opinion very seriously was easy. It was actually one of the most interesting on this sort of aspect, not somebody who's directly a victim or a survivor of certain things, but somebody who had observed and who had witnessed Onision's character throughout this time period. His opinion on this whole situation was very, very easy for me to grab a hold of and understand, and agree with a lot of points that he was talking about. I have been subscribed to him for not very long. I think it's been just a little over a month, and I'm very happy that I have found him. The things that he brings up, the thoughts and opinions that he brings to the table are just so well put together and logical that it's just hard to disagree with anything, really, because what he's saying is of such sustenance that I really suggest, if you are a follower of this, whole situation, go subscribe to his channel. He's a very, very great content creator.
What drew your attention to Onision, Greg, James, whatever his name is today?
Well, that's going way back. I started following him initially after he started a lot of controversy in different commentary communities that existed at the time, because he was a militant vegetarian. So he would put out his views about vegetarianism and trying to antagonize people that didn't like how he's putting it out there, in the sense that how PETA does it, where they try to antagonize people into changing their dietary choices by putting it out there in an edgy way and trying to engage the conversation in maybe a not so positive or constructive way. And by following that controversy, I discovered his Onision Speaks channel, and he would stand up on his videos and pretend he's a guru know-it-all. I knew there was a problem there, referencing people from back in the 90s that would do the same thing with self-help tapes, people that were self-proclaimed know-it-alls like Tony Robbins and such, for example. You always have to take the things people like this say with a grain of salt. And seeing the sway that he had over his audience, it concerned me then, just as much as it concerns me now, that even though his audience has completely dwindled into almost nothing.
This is a time frame that I never witnessed. Okay, I never witnessed the whole vegetarian pushing his life, style onto other people, but I have witnessed footage of it from other content creators who have reviewed it via commentary, and I have also shared my opinion on what I have seen. I've been observing Onision's actions for just under 3 years now, and to be honest with you, I have looked up and invested a lot of my time into his past behaviors because I do want to try to get the full picture and the full idea of who and how this all transitioned to be where it is today. Let me know if you guys think that having individuals who have witnessed and commentated over Onision's actions for the whole time period, most of the time period that he's been on the internet, are vital to proving character statement, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term. I myself, as I've said before, think it is absolutely 100% vital to not only get the individuals who want to speak up about their personal experience, whether that be on a forum site or in real life or just harassment-wise, about what has happened between them and Onision, but I also think it's very important for the content creators who have witnessed it and provided us with great commentary, awesome opinions, and brought attention to this for much longer than a lot of people have as of recently. Now to dive into my opinion on veganism and vegetarianism and how Onision decided to handle that, as referenced from Stevie from his personal experience. So on a personal level, I have always wanted to and strived multiple different times, while failing sometimes, most of the time, to cut meat and cut dairy and things out of my diet that have come from an animal. For me, I have been eating meat my entire life, but as an animal lover, I have always felt really bad about eating from an animal, honestly, truly. I always feel better eating a lot of vegetables and a lot of protein-based things, like beans and, just stuff like that. I do feel better as a person. The thing is, though, is while I have never personally experienced somebody kind of attacking me for eating meat, I see where Onision's actions were just eccentric. I have witnessed some of these snippets of him blatantly attacking people and telling them that they're horrible human beings if they do so eat meat or if they fail at being veganism or vegetarian. I have personally failed, like I said, many, many times. My body is used to meat, and while I do cut a lot of red meat out of my diet and I try to keep it with just poultry, it is still something that, for me, it is very difficult to transition. That is the goal, though. That's my personal goal. But I think that to impose, your thoughts and opinions on people is one thing, but to call them a horrible human being is completely another thing. In the case with Onision, it is manipulation and a tactic of control. I think Onision has a very huge issue with people not agreeing with his opinion completely right off the bat. And I think, as you guys have seen, that's something you probably have observed as well.
He has the eccentric personality you would find definitely in a cult leader. He has the loyal following, even if it's dwindled to the size that it is now. There are still people that are very indoctrinated by the idea he's done nothing wrong here, even despite the evidence that's presented to everybody. When I found his old website, he was trying to shill a self-created religion he called 𝕊ubscribe, which was nothing more than a bunch of word vomit. And I don't know whether
religion called 𝕊ubscribe.
Mm-hmm. It was a bunch of word vomit he put out on the internet that he thought made a whole lot of sense. He would put on his website at the time that he believed in this own religion of his 100%.
Now, from time to time, I have heard the reference of Onision attempting to create his own religion. Back in the day, I also missed this whole phase of everything. 𝕊ubscribe, I believe, is the name of the religion that Onision attempted to create and pretty much get a following behind. I know I'm not the only one who finds that to be extremely creepy and just really weird. But also, it does show the mentality and the manipulation tactics and some of the extremes that cult leaders or attempting cult leaders will try to do to gain a following. I provided you guys with a screenshot of the definition of cults on Wikipedia. I know it's not much, but it does really relate to the description, I guess you could say, of what is being talked about here and how I truly feel Onision attempted to use that religion or that self-made religion as, a cult leading tactic. The level of manipulation and premeditated thought that goes into something like this is, in my opinion, is very scary and dangerous. The reason for that being is, you look at Onision's content, as I've referenced many times in the past. His main audience age group are susceptible children, under the age of 18. And that means that they're very susceptible to being manipulated in those type of ways. And that's something I think that he knew and he targeted, like I've said multiple times in the past, for multitudes of different reasons.
So all these young women start following him, and he crops some of them out of the herd, if you will, and develops an obsession, if you follow this, and then in some cases relationships. He seems to pick those who are in some way vulnerable, and this isn't the victims, because they are victims, and I've interviewed many of them on this show. But there seems to be a lot of commonality there in terms of what he tries to get them to do. There is head shaving, there is talk of tattoos. He has them sign contracts.
Defeminization, a lot of degradation. Yes. He seems to pick women that are from either broken family households. And I'm not putting the women
No. We're not blaming the victim here, but
I'm just saying as example, they come from a broken background, emotional issues. It seems to be his proclivity to do this. He wants to find somebody who has something that's misaligned or broken in their background and give them the impression that, well, if you get with me, I can fix all your problems. I've got all this money. I'm this big entertainer on the internet. That's where he gets his wedge in. That's what he used to use for years to entice these girls into their house because they were young. They were from a damaged background, or they had some other thing going on for them that would have dissuaded their better judgment.
Again, this proving that cult-like mentality, that cult-like goal, I guess you can say more rather. A lot of the times, and if you kind of dive into past cults that have been documented over history, you will see things like tattoos, branding, shaving your head, doing certain things, potentially. I guess it's like a way of indoctrinating yourself into this, whatever cult would be of an example. The whole methodology behind it is so that the cult leader can gain an idea of how far and how willing you're willing, one, to listen to the rules and how far you're willing to go for that said imposed belief system, and two, to gain an idea of how much they can get you to do. One of the biggest ones I think we've all, in at least some fashion or another, seen was the Charles Manson situation. That was essentially a cult, and I don't know if that's going to get this video pretty much snuffed out. But we did see through history how far those individuals were willing to go for their essential leader. Very dangerous. And, you never know the true motives as to why a certain thing is created or as to why an individual is doing what he or she is doing for what reasons. But the thing is, though, is like the same techniques are always implemented into the, trusting process or getting into the said religion or said belief system process. And you see that because it's been something we've observed and documented.
Do you think he started this whole show on YouTube and other places to groom, entice, target young women, or do you think that's who ended up being his audience and he figured out a way to exploit it along the line?
That is actually a good question because I'm not entirely sure. I mean, there's evidence to suggest that I found over the years that he's always been this way, that he's always wanted to just be an exploitionist for people's emotions, play with them and manipulate them that way. And he's admitted such in certain videos regarding his vegetarianism, where he admits he's being manipulative in his arguments there to try to get the response that he wants out of other people. But when it comes to relationships, it could have transmogrified out of his level of fame. He could have looked at how popular he'd gotten. He could have said to himself, well, you know what? This is just what I'm going to do now because I'm too big and I've got too much money for people to really do anything about it.
I think Stevie's point there is absolutely correct towards the end. I think that a lot of it was obviously he admitted, Onision had admitted in the past that this is why he does what he's doing. Now, you never really can understand truly how to take Onision and how what he says about certain things, how to take it exactly. At least for me, I have a hard time understanding if he's lying or if he's just joking around. And sometimes it's very clear. But in this case in particular, I do think that it did transmit over time with his, I guess, fame on YouTube and how he got on Tosh 2.0 and how certain things kind of correlated throughout the timeline and events. Another part of me agrees that this all absolutely 100% was strategic, that with that gained fame and with those viewers and the things he was already getting away with, and he saw power, and with power comes greed, and greed comes just a bunch of other personality, I guess defectives, more for lack of a better term. And the thing with it is when you are so young and you have, I guess, that sense of like godly, like, nobody can touch me, I'm, the bee's knees type deal, you then try to challenge that whole status quo, I guess you could say. You try to see how much you can get away with. And I think that that's the case with Onision. I think that he tried to challenge what he could absolutely get away with. And he never really truly thought, this is my opinion, I don't think he ever really truly thought he was ever going to actually have to face any consequences for anything, whether that be on this level or that be legally. I don't think he ever thought in one tiny bit that he was going to receive this in the future at all, ever. The fact that, Stevie says that he's obviously admitted to liking to use people for an emotional reaction, Onision. I'm referencing Onision in that. It, to me, is very disturbing in the sense that he likes to observe people's pain, and so therefore he has no care for the pain that he has caused, which, as you can tell through even just recently, where he was making videos about Shiloh and mocking some of the interview that she had done with ChrisHansen. That proves it to be 100% true that he actually stands by his confession and saying that he does not really truly care. It's all a game. It's all observation. It's all just like a, entertainment to Onision. And that is heartbreaking.
What we do know is that he up and wanted to divorce her for Shiloh out of absolutely nowhere. He was seeing her on the forums behind her back. He was willing to break up the marriage almost entirely for her. So he provides her with divorce papers right off the bat, and the fallout from it, that's really what hit home for me. He was willing to use the size of his entire YouTube audience to basically bully her offline when she tried to separate away and make a video channel for content of her own. He does this video real patronizing, like, hey guys got a new channel, you should go check it out, knowing full well what his audience was going to do, full well what they were going to do. And lo and behold, a whole bunch of hatred goes their way, and they end up having to come off YouTube. And that's where they've essentially been for the last several years. And I don't blame them. This is a proclivity he has had for many, many years.
Well, then he goes on to do this with Shiloh.
He does. He goes on to do it with all the women.
Yeah,
he does it with every single one of them.
Consent where she is on tour.
Mm-hmm.
They have a relationship. She gets involved with him, and in the videos of the epileptic seizure, the head shaving, it's this poor girl.
It's disgusting.
So what's being referenced here is how Shiloh's relationship came into fruition with Onision. Onision was previously married and served his now ex-wife, phony divorce papers that were not notarized by any courthouse or, filed in the correct manner to try to, I guess, impose this whole relationship with another person who he was essentially seeing behind both of their backs in some sort of way. Now, I want to kind of move forward once Shiloh's relationship and the horrible things that we have discussed in previous videos had happened to Shiloh inside of the relationship. Onision used his entire platform to then go after this girl who was just trying to move on and move forward and heal with her life. And to me, I thought that was one of the most disgusting things, agreeing with Stevie here that could have ever had happened. There were things in the past where I saw Onision saying, you know, he just wanted things to move on. He never wanted to have to discuss this again. But then, you know, the next video he'd be attacking her, you know, making fun of her, releasing footage without her permission because he had said that he'd owned it because at the time she gave him permission, stuff like that. Even as recently as when she had done her interview on ChrisHansen, he began to do the same thing. He even went as far as releasing old videos that were previously removed for whatever reason. Now, to me, I just think that, wow, that shows exactly who he is. That shows his character. That shows that, one, he really doesn't think that any of this has anything to do with harassing or cyberstalk or anything like that. He just thinks that he's just innocent in all of it. Which couldn't be the farthest thing from the truth. The emotional damage, the manipulation, the harassing videos that he has constantly published about Shiloh and a lot of different people. It shows you, just as a viewer of the past, just how malicious he can actually be and how horrible he actually can be with his platform. That brings us to a close on this interview highlights, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you've watched till the end, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much. You mean the world to me. Your support, your comments, your feedback, that also means the world to me. I love getting to know you guys and hearing your guys' opinions and thoughts on this whole situation and in other videos. I want to remind you guys that I live stream every Saturday and Sunday, usually around 7:30 to 8 p.m. is when I decide to go live. I usually set about an hours ahead of time, like the notifications, so you guys, you know, can prepare. Go ahead and click the reminders when you see those pop up so that you're reminded when I do go live, because sometimes time passes a little faster than we realize. If you're new and you made it to the end and you subscribed this video, you mean so much to me. I'd love to hear what you think in the comment section below. Anything at all. I mean, nothing's off limits. And don't forget, kiss the stars.